Life after death has been the great question that people across the world have wrestled with for millennia. And then there are the stories after a tragic accident or people in crisis, and they see the light. What do we do with these stories? Are they emotional ways of coping with pain? Or are they somehow ways of dealing with the stress in life? Or maybe something just happens that we can't fully explain. Maybe we accept them at face value. These could be ways that God gives us hope in the midst of our suffering. For whatever reason, when people take trips beyond the here and now to experience what they believe is heaven, one question stands above the rest. What changed? How did their experience impact their life going forward? What's different? We're going to tell Tawnya's story in the hopes that you'll experience how her encounter helps her to live differently than she did before. What happened to her is only the beginning. The rest of her story is still unfolding.
My daughters are 17 and 19. My oldest is currently in nursing school. She's getting ready to start Centera Nursing School.
What's her name?
Carly Reynolds. And then my youngest is 17. She's Paige Reynolds, and she is a junior at Hickory High School. And then my husband, Billy Reynolds, is in the fire department. He's currently at Nags Head Fire Department.
How long have you been married?
We've been married, you're going to put me on the spot here, I think it's been right about we're getting ready to go on 24 years.
We can ask him later.
Yeah, I could be wrong. He'd know better than me. But 24 years. And I have 3 dogs and a bunny rabbit that are kind of my children also.
What kind of dogs are they?
They are 2 Yorkie poos and a Maltipoo, so little ones.
Nice. I've got a golden doodle at home.
I love golden
He's
doodles.
11 weeks old.
Love them. Love dogs. Love animals. Live out in the Hickory area of Chesapeake. I've lived in the Tidewater area all my life. I was born and raised here, born at Norfolk General, as a matter of fact. So,
yeah.
here my life.
So you're a nurse by trade?
Yes, cardiac nurse.
What got you into nursing?
I always wanted to be a nurse since I was a little kid. I had severe asthma as a child, and I was hospitalized a few times at King's Daughters. Loved the nurses. I actually didn't mind being in the hospital because of the nurses, and since day one, I knew I wanted to be a nurse. Halloween, I dressed up as a nurse. That was my thing. I always wanted to be a nurse, and so I went into nursing school, and if I wasn't a nurse, I honestly am not sure what I would be.
That's really cool.
It's definitely what I love being a nurse.
Yeah. Now, let's talk a little bit about why you're here.
Yes.
You've got an incredible story that Kurt's told me a few times.
Yes.
And I want to hear what happened.
Okay. So we just celebrated our 8-year anniversary, actually. So April 10th, 2013. So I was, I don't know, early 40s, we'll say. I was working out with my husband. In the driveway. We were doing CrossFit, which is something I had done for years. I was running half marathons at the time. It wasn't like it was a brand new exercise program. I was in great shape back then, doing everything. And so they tell me, I don't remember, we were working out, and all of a sudden I said, I don't feel right. And I guess I leaned over the car, and when I did, I collapsed into the driveway. And I guess my husband's first instinct was he thought I was having an asthma attack because I'd always had severe asthma. So he checked me, and the next thing he noticed, I started turning blue, gray. My eyes were rolling back in my head, everything. And he checked, and I had no pulse. So I was clinically dead at the time. They call it cardiac arrest. It's where the heart stops beating. It's different from a heart attack, but it's basically your heart just isn't pumping blood anymore throughout the body.
Just stop.
It just stops. You're dead. You're dead. If somebody doesn't start immediate CPR, you're dead. And usually, even with immediate CPR, not usually, but a lot of times the outcome, it's hard to bring people back. It really is. So I was in full cardiac arrest. So my husband started CPR in the driveway on me. He did it for, I guess, from what I'm told, about 15 minutes,
Wow.
10, 15 minutes. By the time the girls ran around, got the phone in the backyard by the pool, they called 911. My girls saw all of this also.
Wow.
My husband was dialing the phone while he was doing CPR with the other hand because my kids were in hysterics.
Wow.
We had neighbors come over and help by that point because they saw all the commotion in the front yard. and they ended up coming, they shocked me 3 different times. From what I understand, I was out for a total of 15 to 20 minutes.
Wow.
And then got me into Chesapeake General. By that point, I had come back. They'd got me back. I ended up with a defibrillator, which is a device you wear in your chest. It's kind of like the ones that you see on the wall, but mine's inside of me. So if ever I go into another arrhythmia, it'll shock me back to life before I die, I guess you would say. So it was I was in ICU for about a week. Tons of visitors, everybody. It was amazing. And then just
But did you think it was amazing at the time?
I was confused. I have to be honest. I was scared to death. No, I told everybody, and this is awful, but I told everybody it was a living hell for a year and a half of my life because it was so scary.
It's not like it was just that one day.
No. It lasted for a year and a half. So the next year and a half, I ended up with 27 shocks from my defibrillator, which is a horrible, horrible experience. I don't know if I can think of anything worse that's ever happened to me than being shocked. It's awful. So 27 different shocks where I went out and it shocked me. They were doing all these different testing, trying to figure out what was wrong. Finally, in December of 2014, I was at a work Christmas party with all my cardiac nurses. I wasn't back at work at the time because I couldn't drive, I couldn't work, I couldn't do anything. And I ended up getting shocked at the dinner table with everybody at a restaurant, and I fell out in full cardiac arrest again.
Wow. After
my defibrillator went off 6 times. So my husband and one of the nurses assisted him, and they did CPR I was out until they pulled into the hospital parking lot. And when they got me in, they ended up transferring me to Sentara Heart Hospital. Long story short, I ended up going to Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, which is the best for this type of thing. And they did a 10.5-hour procedure, and since then I've not had one episode.
Wow. Now, the first time you had this cardiac arrest on April 10th.
Yes.
You saw something else that nobody else saw. What did you see?
I did. It's crazy because when I think about it, what I went through was beautiful. What everybody else went through was horrible. I don't remember any pain. I don't remember any fear. I don't remember anything. All I remember is I was in a place, and I'm assuming it was heaven, but this is just my assumption. I don't know. It didn't have any sign. Nobody said, welcome to heaven or anything
You didn't see Peter in the gate.
No, I didn't have anything like that. I was somewhere beautiful. That's all I know. And it was the most beautiful, perfect place I've ever been in my life. I don't know even how to put it in words. It's very hard to put in words. It was a color that is hard to explain. It was like a white gold, like the brightest light you could ever look at, but it doesn't hurt your eyes. And the temperature was perfect. I know that sounds weird, but I remember the temperature. I'm very cold or hot sensitive. It was like everything was perfect. There was nothing wrong. And I was there, and I didn't want to leave. And then next thing I know, I saw everybody that I'd ever known and loved that had died. They were all there. And I saw everybody. Everybody was kind of there along the background, but 2 prominent people came up to speak to me, and one was my grandmother, who had died just 2 months to the day before that.
No way.
February 10th of 2013, she died. And I died, this was April 10th, 2013. So 2 months to the day. And I was very close. I'll call her Meemaw. That's what I've always called her, so I'll call her Meemaw. And then the other was my father-in-law, who had died back when, he had probably been dead maybe 8 years, I'm guessing, somewhere around there.
This is Billy's dad?
Yes. They were the 2 that came up to talk to me. Billy's dad first, he said, Tanya, you have to go back. And I said, why? I don't want to. And he said, you have to go back, and Billy can't do this alone. And I said, I don't want to go back. And he said, you have to. He needs your help. You cannot stay here. And then Meemaw came. Meemaw was there. And Meemaw said, Tanya, you have to go back. And I said, I don't want to, Meemaw. I said, I want to stay here. And she said, you have to go back. Your girls need you. And at that point, I hadn't thought about my girls. And I'll explain that in a minute. That's a really weird thing. I had to do a lot of processing on that one. But I hadn't thought about my kids, my husband, anybody at this point. I wanted to stay there. And I was like, oh, Carlene Page. And they're like, they need you, Tanya. And my grandma, Meemaw, it's kind of funny. She loved Dr. Phil.
Okay.
Okay, back then when he was big. And she said, remember I always told you should go on Dr. Pavil, you'd be like the best mom. And she used to always say this because
Aw.
to her it was the highest compliment. And I said, yes. And she said, you are a great mom to those girls. They need you, Tanya. You cannot stay here. You have to go back. And I remember at that point, I was like, you're right, my girls, they do need me. And I said, okay. And when I said okay, that I don't remember anything else.
Really?
I don't know. I don't remember anything else. I remember then, I guess, I remember bits and pieces of the hospital. The funny thing is, like, you can talk to anyone who was there. I don't remember anybody who came to see me. I don't remember anything about the hospital stay. I don't remember anything that was done. They said I had short-term memory loss. Like, you could come in to see me. You'd come in 5 minutes later, and I'd be like, where have you been? I haven't seen you. I'd know who you were, but I didn't know that I had seen you 5 minutes ago. I had no recollection. My daughters even wrote on this board in my wall what happened to me when I was in the hospital, because I could not remember why I was in the hospital. Every time I opened my eyes, I was like, why am I here? Why am I here?
But you can still remember this vision.
Oh, vividly, vividly,
And not just a vision, but an experience.
vividly. Like, there's no one could convince me that it didn't happen. It wasn't my imagination. It wasn't something I dreamt or something like that. It definitely happened. And it changed me for life. I mean, it really did. I've always been a Christian. Even then, I was a Christian. And I knew there was a God. But to actually see that, it was amazing. And now I'm almost at peace. Like, I'm not ready to die.
Right.
I still have kids and stuff, but when I die, I'm fine. I am happy to die. It's fine with me. And when I go to funerals now, it's funny. I'm sad, but at the same time, I'm happy for them because they're so much better than we are. That I promise.
Yeah.
And so it was weird. It was, everybody asked me what it was, and I always say the words that best describe it are peace, love, and acceptance, because that's what you felt when you were there. That's what I felt. Everything was peace. Everything was perfect. Love, because everybody there loved you. It was this, you just felt it. It was amazing. And acceptance, because you could just be whoever you were, and everybody loved you for who you were. It wasn't, here we're trying to impress everybody. We're worried, oh gosh, did I offend such and such, or did this? It wasn't anything like that. It was perfect. And my family members were perfect. The ones that were sick, very sick before they died, they looked fabulous. And it's hard to put into words. Like, everybody asked me what they were wearing. I don't remember that stuff. I don't remember any clothes or anything like that. I guess it was nondescript, or I didn't pay attention, or I don't know. I don't remember that, but I remember everybody was strong, healthy. They looked like who they were in perfect form.
Wow. If
that makes sense.
Yeah, it kind of does. There have been some of these stories like this out there. I remember reading a few years ago the book Heaven is for Real.
Yes.
And a lot of
I read
these
that
things kind of match up with what the little boy saw when he took his trip.